For 20 years, Chris Matthews helmed Hardball here at MSNBC with his trademark, fast-paced, no-nonsense interviews shaping the political conversation of a nation. In his new memoir, This Country, My Life in Politics and History, he charts his American story, summing it up with this poignant line: "It was my country's history, and mine personally." Joining me now is the former host of MSNBC's Hardball and the author of This Country, Chris Matthews. Chris, so fantastic to see you. Thank you for coming to the Sunday Show. Congratulations on the book.
We've had a long road together, you and me.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yes, we have. So, Chris, I love that line in your book. It comes at towards the tail end of your book. And when I read that line, it hit me. It made so much sense because you spend the entire book telling your story from before birth with your parents and grandparents right through to your storied career in politics and journalism. Why was it important to you to tell your story?
Well, because I'm getting old, and because I do have pretty strong personal memories of history being made. I grew up in the very early years of the Cold War, and the nuns had us hiding under our desks, waiting for the Russian bombers to attack with atomic weapons. It's a searing experience, personally, to be under there for 15 minutes and praying because you're told the end of the world is coming. And then, of course, all those years in Africa, watching the rise of freedom of Uhuru and the end of the British Empire over there in Africa. Personally, being through it for 2 or 3 years, more than 2 years, certainly. And then coming back and flying around Air Force One with Jimmy Carter, trying to get him reelected. I mean, that experience was very personal with me. There I am in Africa with some of the traders I worked with. And there's the president, of course, on Air Force One, Jody Powell, Rick Hertzberg, David Rubenstein, and the military aide. I mean, I was there. We're facing defeat. It was a tough election, obviously, against Reagan. And then all those years later, covering the Berlin Wall when it was coming down, interviewing the Germans about how bad communism is. And then going back to South Africa for the big, there I am at the G7 with Kathleen, my wife, of course, the Queen.
The Queen, yes.
And then going back and covering the great all races election in South Africa with Bishop Tutu, Archbishop Tutu, spending the whole day with him. There's so many pictures of history where I did manage to be a very small part of history, but certainly an eyewitness.
Well, Chris, I mean, yeah, looking at those pictures, you're like Zelig. You are everywhere at key points in American history. So, Chris, because of the President of the United States, we have less time than I wanted. But I want to read something to an excerpt from your book and get your reflections on the other side. You wrote, "I imagine coming back to this country a few hundred years from now and finding it still what our founders bequeathed to us. It will hold elections every 2 years for Congress, every 4 for president. There will be more equality, a greater comedy. People will be happier with one another. Race and ethnicity will no longer stand as barriers to shared freedom and equality." That is an incredibly hopeful statement, Chris. Given where we are right now, are you too hopeful? Are you too optimistic? Can America reach that point you wrote there?
Well, let's get to a point that's very much in the news right now: voting rights. The 15th Amendment, everyone should go get a copy of the 15th Amendment. You can get it on Google anywhere. And it basically says, yes, everybody, regardless of previous history of servitude, slavery, and regardless of color or race, you get to vote in this country if you're born here. And I just wonder, or if you're nationalized, of course. And I get wondering, the second section, which everybody overlooks, is the Congress of the United States shall have the power to enforce this. I think we have to think about what we're doing here in the Congress of the United States. We have to have voting rights because that's in the Constitution, the right of Congress. In fact, I think the empowerment of Congress to make sure these laws are enforced and that people do get to vote. And that means overriding the states. I think if we're going to have that world I talk about of comedy, people getting along with each other, we have to have equal rights. And hey, look, that's the name of the game in terms of the country's future.
Chris Matthews, you will have to come back when we have a normal Sunday, non-Global Summit Sunday. But I so appreciate your coming to the Sunday show today.
Well, this show is growing in big importance to this country. I mean it. And I think it'll be an honor to come back, Jonathan. Thank you for that.